Township Board of Supervisors meeting for December 4th, 2012. We'll begin, as we always do, with the salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Pullen, you call the roll, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Snipes?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Let the record show Mr. Rocco is out of town on business. A prearranged trip he was not able to get out of, so he sends his regrets. Okay, we'll start with our first agenda item, which is public comment. We have one name on the list, Bill Reese, our Park and Rec Director.
Good evening, everyone. Upcoming special events being offered by Falls Township Parks and Recreation Department includes the following. The annual Holiday Children Party will take place on Saturday, December 8th on the grounds of Three Arches under the big white tent from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. This event is free and for families with children ages babies up to 10 years old. There will be refreshments, DJ Dana, face painting, children's games and crafts, a special visit from Santa and Mrs. Claus, and of course Mr. Clark's personal favorite, Otto the Clown, the Balloon Man. The annual Three Arches tree lighting ceremony will be held on Saturday, December 8th, immediately following the Holiday Children Party starting at 6:30 p.m. There will be singing, a few comments from dignitaries, and then the official tree lighting of our very special tree. The annual Breakfast with Santa event will take place on Saturday, December 15th at the Falls Township Senior Center from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. This is a free event for families with children ages babies up to 10 years old. The entertainment includes Mad Science, Otto the Clown, a spectacular puppet show, and of course Santa Claus will be on hand giving out candy canes to everyone. Plus we'll be serving all the pancakes you can eat, plus other refreshments. So come on out and have breakfast with Santa. And just to highlight the Falls Township Annual Holiday Spirit House Decorating Contest put on by the Board of Supervisors, the Falls Township Board of Supervisors wants to recognize and award those residents who help brighten the holiday season with their house decorating skills. Nominate your house or neighbors for the annual Falls Township Holiday Spirit House Decorating Contest. Houses will be judged on their creativity and artistic merit. You can either go online at www.fallstownship.com or you can call 215-949-9000, extension 220, 221, or 222. Deadline for nominations is Friday, December 21st at 4 p.m. And that's all I have. And you five gentlemen are certainly cordially invited to attend all the events and especially the tree lighting ceremony this coming Saturday. So if you can just stop over at 6:30, if you can come for the children's party, that's great. But if you can just come at 6:30, say a few words, that would be awesome.
Be happy to. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the information as well.
You got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. It's the only name I have on the list. Any other public comments? No interested parties. All right, with the board's permission, I'm going to just do a slight adjustment to the agenda. Bill Renson from our Cable Advisory Board is here to make a presentation or an update just on what our Cable Advisory Board is doing. And so I'm going to ask him to come up, and then we'll move to the Mercer Court.
Good evening. Bill Renson, Falls Township Cable Advisory Board. We finally started having our meetings. Verizon has been showing up at our meetings, and Comcast. For a while there, we'd have Comcast but no Verizon. So they are coming to the meetings. We're still having a hard time getting information off of them. They keep reverting back to the township agreement, and they can only give information out to Pete Gray, but we're slowly getting information. On the Verizon note, as far as their build-out, they keep telling us they're right on schedule with their build-out. I know, Bob, you've called me a couple times on different things. That's all the information they'll give me. They're right on line with their build-out. They have 2 more years. By I think it is 2015, they have to have the whole build-out out. So that's what they tell me. The worst hit in the area, in the township, was Thorn Ridge. There's still a couple houses out there with Verizon, but Comcast has all service back up and running through the whole township. We did find out something with the storm with both Verizon and Comcast. If you have the phone system with Verizon and Comcast, the backup battery for the phone is only 4 hours for Comcast, 8 hours with Verizon. After that backup battery goes out, you don't have a phone. Okay, we didn't realize this until the storm, and we had a couple complaints from the township residents. We've asked them to look at some kind of battery system that will give at least 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours backup power to the phone system. In case somebody has to call 911, I know we were out quite a few times at different residents. They had to use their cell phones or what have you. But with the cell phone towers even going out during that storm, I mean, it was a real headache. So the board has asked them to look at that and see if they can get some kind of backup battery for at least 12 to 24 hours. They said to get back to us this month or by the next meeting in February with an answer on that. Verizon, we did have an incident in the township. Just so happens I was on the scene there with the resident. We had one of their workers jump over a fence. It was fenced-in yard. They weren't aware of the policy with Verizon as far as gaining access to a property. They were bitten by the homeowner's dog. She followed everything. She had signs posted and everything else. They knocked on the door. Nobody came to the door. The worker jumped over the fence to work on the line, got bit. She admitted that she heard the dog but jumped over the fence anyway. So long story short, Verizon has gone back and they're re-educating all their employees to that through Verizon. And the phone calls that I made with Verizon, we finally got an answer out of them, and they are re-educating their employees to that. Comcast, that's all I have for Verizon as far as the information I get off of them. Comcast, the new agreement has been signed for the next 10 years. They're really good. If I ask them for information, I get it. I can get blackouts, whatever the township has, I can get. All I got to do is just make a phone call. Everybody is back up and running with the storm. They had a lot of equipment out that night, as everybody else did. The same thing with the phone system. You know, we've asked Comcast to do the same thing, get back to us by the next meeting with an update on the batteries. I think, Pete, you got an email today from Brian Jeter.
Yes.
With the new contract, the fire companies and rescue squads were getting free service. As of, we negotiated the contract, they wanted to shut it off with the signing of the contract. They left it go until January 1st. The email I got today from Brian Jeter is they're going to go until February to give us a little bit more time to figure out what we want to do, whether we're going to pay for the cable or just accept the basic cable. Right now, the fire companies and the rescue squads are getting 4 premium channels to try to keep the members in during storms and everything. But they're giving us till February to find out that. So I ask any of the fire companies, officers, to please give me a call so I can get back to them on what they want to do as far as their premium channels, whether they want to keep it or just go down to basic. Comcast also has come out with, Bob, I think the tech school got this, they came out with trying to help some of the families that are on the free lunch program, trying to get the internet into the homes. They've offered to bring the internet into homes of any kids that are on the free lunch program on any of the schools, Bristol Township or Pennsbury school districts and any other school districts. They give them $9.95 to bring internet in per month, and they also are eligible to get a free laptop for the home at, I think it's a cost of $149. So that's pretty good for a laptop, and that's to get the kids to do their homeworks online and give them a chance to have internet service. But Comcast has come out with that. They've also extended it until the year 2012-2013 school year, so it's good for all the kids coming in to school next year also. If the school districts want more information, they can get a hold of me. I have plenty of information, or I can get a hold of Brian Jeter and get information out to them. I know Pennsbury has it. I know I dropped off a bunch of literature at the tech school, so they do have that. That's all I have for an update on the cable. We are meeting now. We do have our meeting set. The next meeting is February 12th at 7:30. We're meeting quarterly, so the meetings are set and everybody does show up. Any residents that have a problem that want to come into the meetings, please feel free to come into the township on those dates or on that date. And Comcast and Verizon will both be there to answer any questions and get any problems straightened out.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much for the update. Any comments or questions for Mr. Renson from board members?
No, thank you.
Mr. Renson, I'll be in touch with Bristol Township Schools.
Okay.
That information. Thank you.
Okay.
Could you describe again specifically the arrangement that they would make with a family that has a child who's in the free lunch program? What exactly are they offering? What exactly is the family paying?
The family is paying $9.95 a month for the internet service. It's a discount price.
Right.
They're also eligible to get a laptop computer for their home if they don't have a computer for $149. That's all they'll pay. They'll get a certificate when they sign up for the internet service, and they can go and pick up their laptop for $149.
And that's specifically for Pennsbury and...
For any school district that's in the Comcast area, Pennsbury, Bristol, I'm only saying those because they're the immediate, but any school district that has Comcast in their area.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move to be our third item, but it's listed 2 on our agenda. Mercer Court, 166 to 68 Lincoln Highway. This is preliminary land development. Mr. Gray?
Yes, as mentioned, this is preliminary land development for Mercer Court, located on Lincoln Highway, tax map parcel 13-005 and 00-001 and 13-005-002. The applicant is proposing a 50-unit townhouse development, and representing the applicant tonight is Mr. Rob Gunlock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Rob Gunlock, attorney for the applicant. Here with me is Bill McNanny, the project engineer from Van Cleef Engineering Associates, and Pam Northrup from GP&J Associates. Mr. Chairman, as you may recall, we were here before this board back on the sketch plan. I thought it was a few months ago, but I went back and looked at my notes, and it was September 6, 2011. And we did receive some comments from you that evening. Generally, I think the board commented that they liked the concept and they were receptive to it. From there, we proceeded on to the zoning hearing board and then on to the planning commission, and have been before the planning commission on at least 2, maybe 3 occasions to fine-tune the plan. We've also worked in detail with the township staff and received comments from the staff that have been incorporated into this plan set. We're here before you this evening to request a preliminary subdivision land development approval, and we do have a will comply with the outstanding letters. I'd characterize the T&M letter as minor administrative cleanup items that the engineers will work to complete. The fire marshal letter is simply a comment that we connect to sprinklers. And there's a TPD letter which just has 1 or 2 minor comments in it as well, which is all a will comply.
Okay. If you don't mind, Mr. Gunlock, just going over the waivers, the 5 waivers you're requesting, just give us an idea of, and show us on the drawing there.
Sure.
Reasons why you need them, what the how they're integral to the project, et cetera.
Sure. Bill, let's run through the 5 waivers, and you can reference on the plan to the board, and I'll read them off. The first one is to Section 32A2, requiring a 250-foot centerline radius on the proposed loop road.
This is the area right here. There's 2 locations where the proposed loop road turns. The radius is proposed to be 60 feet. And you can see just by way of how much room is on the property, there's not room for a larger radius. And in fact, we feel like the smaller radius is more desirable for traffic calming.
Could you explain what you mean by that in terms of traffic calming?
Well, just that vehicles would have to travel more slowly around that curve.
The second item is to 34C, requiring that secondary streets shall not intersect on the same side of a major highway and an interval at less than 800 feet between the nearest right-of-ways. That concerns the 2 proposed access points. Given the configuration of this property, it was determined that the the best layout or the most efficient layout, it would be for a U-shaped design, which we've shown on the plan, and there is no more room for compliance with the 800 feet given the configuration of the property. That was reviewed by the applicant's traffic engineer as well as the township's traffic engineer, and they didn't have any issues with that location. I will tell you, sir, that we did also meet with PennDOT because this is a PennDOT road, and PennDOT had some input on the access points and are asking for a left turn into the site there be installed. They want the median that's out there now to be reconfigured so that a left turn can be installed. Mr. Fran Haney, who we met with at PennDOT, acknowledged that given the traffic studies and the additional gap study that PennDOT asked for, that there's plenty of gaps and plenty of opportunities for turning movement in and out of that stretch of Lincoln Highway there. However, he felt, and his quote was, for the soccer mom who's pulling in there, he wanted to have some room to pull out of the travel lane to make the left in, and so he's asking for the left turn lane, and the applicant has agreed to provide that and is in the process now of preparing those PennDOT plans that will be submitted to your engineer as well for comment when they go to PennDOT. Okay. The third item is 37D, requiring that parking areas be designed so that each motor vehicle may proceed to and from the parking space provided for it without the moving of any other vehicle. This was the subject of some discussion before your Planning Commission, and as a result of those discussions, the plans were revised to provide that the end units would now be 22 feet in width and have a two-car garage and a driveway that accommodates 2 parking spaces. So all of the end units and 6 of the interior units will accommodate the full 2-car garage and 2 spaces in the driveway. 20 of the units have a 1-car, or it's technically a 1.5-car garage, but it fits 1 car with 1 in the driveway. And there are in addition 25 overflow spaces. So the total parking count is 185 spaces for these 50 units. And it was determined by all parties that that was sufficient to handle the needs. That doesn't even mention any on-street parking. That's just all off-street parking. The third item was 38B, requiring a lighting plan in and around the parking areas and private driveways that provides for non-glare lights focused downward with a minimum ground level illumination of 0.3 foot candles anywhere in the area to be illuminated. I'm not sure the reason for that, Bill, if you could explain that one.
Sure. That requirement basically translates into a number of lights all along the proposed loop road. We felt it was adequate to have proposed lighting at both site entrance locations, one light location on either side of the proposed parking area, and then one additional light in the back as not to overlight this residential development.
And given the fact that we have 50 townhomes there that in and of themselves will likely have a light at the door and lights in the units, that they'll be plenty bright. And that was actually the only comment we received from the neighbors, was asking that we not have spotlights in the back over on their portion. So we basically toned down the lights, but I think the consensus was there'll be more than sufficient lighting there for the project. And the last one is as to Section 45, requiring that easements with a minimum of 200 feet width shall be provided for utilities and drainage, and that concerns the off-site easement for stormwater and sewage. And Bill, you felt, and I believe the township engineer was of the opinion, that the proposed width was suitable there, particularly since it's actually on the township property. Correct. Okay. So it wasn't an issue of, hey, if we have to get into that area, do we have enough easement? It's the authority in the township, and it's on your property. So those were the 5 waivers that we're requesting as part of the approval.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll turn to board members for comments or questions. Mr. Galloway?
Not at this time.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, thank you. The loop road that comes through is obviously 2 ways. The entire road is 2 ways, correct?
Yes.
And I guess I would turn to, I guess, Mr. Sullivan, the township requirement of that a secondary street not intersect the same side of a major highway. Oh, okay, 800 feet. And what is the reasoning behind that? Do you know what's at play here in terms of the decision we make on that?
What, the reason for an 800-foot separation would be if you have two vehicles turning left, basically at the same time out of those two entrances, that could be a potential vehicle conflict.
Right.
For this project, there's obviously no way they can meet that 800 feet. Since it is a state highway, as long as PennDOT agrees that that's okay, and I think the left turn lane in also gives an opportunity for a two-stage left out, makes it a safer situation.
And no lights are anticipated at these intersections, correct, with Route 1?
That's correct, no lights, no. And it's a much less traffic volume that's anticipated in and out of a residential community like this than, let's say, a retail shopping center. So you don't have that same active, aggressive conflicts. People come and go throughout the day in a much less impact environment.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested in hearing what other board members say. My experience on Route 1 is there's a lot of odd turning and coming and going and pulling out of places, so it is tricky, but that may just be my perspective. I'd like to hear from other people, too. On the issue of the lighting, I don't know, again, I don't like overlighting either, but I know there are security concerns, and people often have those worries, so I'd like to hear from other board members on that. And that's probably all for now.
Mr. Dents?
Back to the 200 feet between the entrances. How far is that entrance from the traffic light right out front here? No, the one on your right. Yeah.
Out to the township light.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any idea?
I don't know exactly what that is.
See.
Couple hundred feet?
Yeah. It's got to be several hundred feet, right? Because it's...
Yeah, it's probably around 500 feet at the most, maybe not quite that.
500?
Yeah.
And you feel that the left turning lane in that PennDOT's asking for would help with a two-stage out
Yes.
or cause more confusion? You think it would
I don't
help?
think it would cause more confusion at all, no.
And they're saying they want both, you be able to make a left turn out of both of those entrances, not just one.
That's not what they've said yet. What they've said was, what Fran Haney insisted upon was the left turn in. He wants the median
Left
rebuilt.
turn in?
Yes. He wants
Oh,
to
so-
take the people traveling west.
Got
He
ya.
wants a place for them to pull off the road so that they can wait for the gap, even though he acknowledged that the gap study, he requested that there was plenty of room, that you didn't have to wait.
Understood.
This happens to be a pretty unique section of Lincoln Highway, and you know it
Correct.
better than me. It's not that high traveled as the other areas to the east and the west.
Right now, it's not that high.
It's not, right.
Hoping that changes.
Yes. So that's the reason he wanted the people off, so they can make the left in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to piggyback on Mr. Dentz's question. The left turn in that you're talking about, is that just for the more easterly
That was my next
entrance, or
question,
was
yeah.
it or for both?
They just want it for the easternly entrance.
Oh, good.
Correct.
So you could make it so that you could only turn, which one's the east entrance?
The closest to
I
the
would think they'd
township.
want the other one to be. Okay, so you can make it so you can only make a left out of the farther south one?
That's going to be up to PennDOT. It'll either be a full left out or a pork chop with right in and right out. They haven't made that determination.
Chop, you got to explain that.
Just right in and right out only. The pork chop would
Both of
be...
them.
No, the one that's closest to the township, what I'm calling the eastern side, is going to be a full movement. You can make a left in, you can make a left out, you can make a right out, you can make a right in.
So that's going to be PennDOT's decision. We have no say in that.
It's going to be full movement. On the eastern one, it'll either be full movement or it'll just be right in and right out. What happens is, we submit the plans. We hired a consultant, David Horner of Horner and Cantor, who's a traffic engineer. It's what his expertise is in. He is working on those plans. He then submits them to PennDOT and a copy to your traffic engineer. PennDOT waits for your traffic engineer to review it and submit their comments, and then they make a determination. But our meeting was, we'll work out the details, but we're insistent that you put the left turn lane in, that you redo the median out front on that eastern access point.
Okay.
That's what he was insistent upon, and that's what we're working on.
But they didn't insist on the pork chop, as you called it, the right and left out of that.
They did not insist upon that. They said
Yeah.
that's something that they're going to consider as part of their review of the application. Our consultant told Pam as early as today, it's 50-50 whether they're going to require it or not. He does not believe that there's a need for that restriction, but they may ask for it nonetheless.
Okay.
I have a sketch
So
if
we
you...
don't have a final answer yet on that. Even if we grant this tonight, what are we doing? Are we not?
This is a preliminary only.
Okay.
Right.
And hopefully, as we move forward,
We'll get clarification on
further
that.
answers out of PennDOT.
Right,
Now,
those...
let's talk about the parking. Is there on-street parking on that loop road?
There's a limited on-street parking between the homes on one side, between the driveways. There is also the off-street parking lot that we have that contains 25 parking spaces.
So about how many on-street parking spots are there?
Is there another dozen, Bill, give or take? Have you added them up? It's one side only.
Added them up, but it is short look, yeah.
Now, where the on-street parking is where the units with the single garage and single parking space are?
These units here?
The
This is the...
No, the homes that have a single garage and a single
Parking space,
parking
right.
space.
Yes.
They're the ones that also have a parking spot on the street.
The street parking is available for anybody, first come, first serve, if they use it. Obviously, we're hopeful that people pull their cars into their garages, into their driveways. There is a restriction on the plan and in the homeowner association documents that nobody can convert the garage space to living space, and that the language we use in there that has strongly encouraged that the residents keep the garages available for the parking of their vehicles. Now,
I
that's
only know
something
two
you can't
people in
enforce.
the world that can actually park in their garages,
Okay?
and one of them's right here.
Well, you met
What are
three,
your
you met
thoughts,
three
Mr.
now.
Sullivan,
You met
on the
three.
parking situation?
There's no way for us to enforce
What they do with their garage?
parking in the garages.
So they're basically gonna have one parking space.
Most of the units that only have the one-car garage and one parking space, will probably be limited to one parking space.
And how many of those units are there?
There are 30 units that have a two-car garage and two full spaces in the garage, in the driveways.
Okay, how many units with one car garage and one full space?
There's 20 units that have a space and a half. That is, Cornell Homes, who is going to build the homes, has a preference for a 16-foot wide garage, and the reason is that people want that storage. And so the unit is 20-foot wide, but it's a 16-foot wide garage, so you actually get a space and a half.
Right.
So could you cheat in two cars on that 16 feet? Yeah, two small cars could fit on there, but generally it's designed for one car and one in the garage.
So we have a 25-space overflow parking lot and about a dozen spaces on the street as well, you said?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay.
Okay, and then addressed quite a few of the questions I had. I was going to ask specifically about if there's any kind of deed restriction or anything in the homeowners association restricting people from converting their garages into living space, but you did address that.
Yes, and we have, Mr. Chairman, very detailed HOA restrictions that will be submitted as part of the final plan to your solicitor to review and comment as well. But the intent is to keep this community in proper order, and that's one of the requirements.
Right. I mean, I think all of us are and I guess for residents, we didn't point this out earlier. I suppose we probably should have. As you said, it was a year ago or more than a year ago when you were here. This property is immediately adjacent to the Township building, the former Bryan's trailers and RVs, sales area. Across the street from some of the Amelie's and everything else that's the other retail area. And we do have one of our boards that's been looking at ways to revitalize this particular stretch of Lincoln Highway. As you pointed out yourself, it isn't getting as much traffic as other areas of Lincoln Highway, and we think that's a bad thing in some cases, because we'd like to get more people looking at doing shopping and other things in this area. But I think this is certainly something that we can, that'll help that. Obviously, we want to make sure that when this development goes in, that we're trying to make it, design it as you are as well, I'm sure, design it as perfectly as you can. So the questions about parking were important, the lighting questions to me were important, and you did address that as well. The turning in and out, obviously is a little bit of an issue, but, that again is PennDOT's road, and from what you're describing, I think definitely has to be some kind of restriction in terms of where people are pulling in and pulling out, because it can get a little dangerous.
We took also great care in the look from the street, the pedestrian-friendly, the sidewalks go around both sides, sidewalk along the frontage, the fencing that Pam worked on there, the decorative fencing, the fencing between this building, the township property, and that property, all the landscaping that we've added on the plan. If you look at the landscape sheet, it's quite detailed. We're hopeful that when these other properties on Lincoln come in one at a time, and you have a lot of redevelopment opportunities up the street here, that you hold them all true to the sidewalks and keep that sidewalk and street trees. We've got great street tree frontage and appeal here on this property, that extends, whether it's a commercial redevelopment, an office redevelopment, or additional residential housing. It's a good theme that hopefully will extend down. We did note that the office building next door was recently acquired, and they were cleaning that up, painting the building, redoing the insides. Supposed to clean up the landscaping in the parking lot there as well. So hopefully that theme continues down on those other properties along.
Yeah, I hope so too. So I don't, as I said, all the issues I had, the questions I had were addressed. I turn to Mr. Sullivan, just any waivers on here? There are 5 waivers being requested. Do you have any comments or concerns?
No concerns or comments. The lighting plan, generally, the 0.3-foot candles is usually for parking areas in commercial lots, but it is part of the subdivision land development ordinance. And the lighting levels they're talking about, they have 2 standards on either side of the parking area. So we felt that was appropriate for a residential use. So the other waivers we're okay with. Would like Mr. Gondlach to acknowledge that in accordance with paragraph A6 of the resolution, that the plan he shows at this time requires a variance to allow the parking area to be within 15 feet of a structure, actually lot number 40.
Yes, we do acknowledge that as it's currently situated on this plan, it's within 4.7 feet of the parking area. So either a variance will need to be obtained to allow that to be within 4.7 feet, or these 2 3-unit buildings will be combined together. The applicant hadn't decided yet which of those routes to go. Going to consult with the builder. They're leaning towards going to get the 4.7-foot de minimis variance to have additional end units, but that would happen between now and final plan approval. One of those 2 options.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. Sullivan?
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clark, anything?
Only I would ask the board that if they were to grant preliminary approval tonight, that they would also give conditional approval to the granting of a stormwater easement across township property. The conditional approval will be conditioned upon the applicant getting final land development approval. The plans will need to be approved by the township engineer, and the easement documents will need to be approved by my office.
Is that
part of the resolution we have in
It's
front of
not
us?
contained in the resolution, but I would ask, again, if you're going to grant that you would also grant conditional approval for the necessary easement. And I've already...
Stormwater easement.
The stormwater easement.
It's
I've already
stormwater
had-
and sewer.
Stormwater and utility easement.
Yeah.
Stormwater and utility.
So we're talking about, we're talking about pipes that are going across township property. Is that what we're talking about?
Underground, yes.
Underground.
Underground on the rear of the property line.
That will not impact anything we're doing with the property.
And that's connecting to public sewer?
Yes, actually, initially, we were only requesting the storm pipe out the back, but the authority asked, instead of taking the sewer out the front, to go out the back, and so we redesigned the sewer to take it out the back and connect with the existing sewer main.
So both the stormwater and the sewer are going through the same pipe connecting to the main?
Not the same pipe, the same easement area along the rear property line of the township and connecting in the back, yes.
Connecting to the main in the back?
Yes.
Can't combine those 2 pipes.
No, don't want
The old
to.
days.
That's why you scared him.
okay?
I did have one other question, maybe Mr. Sullivan. I'm unclear when we are required in our zoning to provide green space, playgrounds, open space, that kind of thing, and when we are not. Could you fill me in on that?
All land development subdivisions require some kind of open space. They are providing open space at the lower end of the property And at one point, there was some kind of passive recreation there, but I believe that's been eliminated.
There was some discussion about a tot lot at one time, and there was some discussion concerning some benches and some other areas. In talking with the Planning Commission, that was removed, and we actually widened the units for the additional parking. In talking with the builder, they were of the opinion that, from their experience, it's just additional maintenance costs that the residents have to pay to maintain, and it just wasn't needed here. So we do have green space and green areas around it, but there's just not a tot lot. They just didn't feel the tot lot was needed, and it wasn't the type of market that they were doing here, that they anticipate that many children to need that type of facility.
And what was the Planning Commission's reasoning for wanting those eliminated?
I don't want to characterize as wanting it eliminated. They were on one version of the plan, but it just evolved to the plan that we have here.
And so the one is a basin. You're not anticipating that as sort of a green space, open area?
No, these are just open, just some green areas around the project, but it's really the sidewalk system and the connection, and there's no active recreation on site.
And basin, I think it's basin 3. I know there's one underground basin, and then on the eastern side toward the back there is an open basin, let's say. And then on the western side, what is that there?
Just open grass. What's that? That's just open grass.
Well, it'll be open grass. It's an underground infiltration system.
Underground infiltration. Okay, that's what I wanted. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
No, anything I had in mind has been addressed. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any public comment needed? See no hands. All right, Mr. Clark, just the wording again, the resolution will first off be 2012-26,
26.
and we would add,
Just granting conditional approval to the utility easement across township property that is shown on the plan. And as I've indicated, Mr. Gunluck and I have exchanged some emails back and forth about what the conditions are, so that'll all be taken care of by the time we get to final.
okay, so granting conditional approval to a utility easement on township property.
Yep.
Okay. So resolution 20-12, granting preliminary land development for Mercer Court, tax parcel number 13-005-001 and 13-005-002, including a granting of conditional approval to utility easements on township property. Is there a motion to approve?
It's 2012-26.
Sorry, what did I say?
You just said 2012.
Oh, sorry, 26. I had it written down.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. See you in hopefully a couple months for final approval with the PennDOT details worked out.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I guess. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 4, which is to consider appointing an auditor for the 2012 financial audit. Mr. Gray, this is right in your wheelhouse.
Yes. Proposals were received for the December 31st, 2012 financial audit. They were as follows. Zelenkovsky Axelrod, $21,500. Major and Mastro, $22,000. G3 of PA, $24,000. And B. Bergville and Company, $31,500. Also, each company also provided quotes for a second and third year option as well. The board is asked to consider choosing a proposal for the 12/31/2012 financial audit.
Okay, would it be, is there a reason why we wouldn't go for all 3 years?
We could go with all 3 years if you'd like to. We've been with this current company for the last 2 years, so that would be a total of 5 years in a row for this particular company. We did have them back in the early 2000s, 04 to 08 as well. They have done a very good job for the township. They're always available for questions. They do a fine job.
And the current company is Major and Mastro?
Major and Mastro.
Okay. All right, So we could do just individual years, and I know we've been doing individual years. May have been 1 year we did 2 years, a 2-year arrangement. I'm trying to remember now. Back,
Yeah. There was a company that we did have, Mercadian, in 2008 and 09 that did 2 years.
Okay. Right. So the benefit, I guess, is there a benefit to doing just 3 years now? I mean, we lock in our price.
We lock in the price.
It's also, I guess, a little bit more convenient. We don't have to come back and sort of do this.
Yes.
And spend the time going out to find, RFPs, et cetera. Comments or questions from Mr. Gray regarding the auditing firms, Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, you said that Major and Mastro's the current, and we've had them for how many years now?
2 years in a row, the 10 and 11 financial year ends. And we also had them from 2004 to 2008.
And you're satisfied with the work they've done?
Yes, they do a fine job.
All right, thank you. No more questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No comment. Thanks.
Mr. Dents?
No, Mr. Gray answered my questions.
Okay. And I have none. I mean, I've worked with Major and Mastro. I know they do a lot of work throughout Bucks County. I think they're based in Newtown, I guess? Or
They're in Montgomery County.
Montgomery County? I think
Yes.
I thought they had an office in Newtown. But I know they do a lot of work in Lower Bucks County. So any public comment needed? See no hands. Is there if there are no more questions for Mr. Gray, is there a motion then?
Well, are we going to do 1 year or 3 years? 2 years? Does anybody have an opinion on that?
The only question I had was, I remember a conversation at some point about wanting to have the option at least to move to a different company every so often so that we don't get, so that new eyes are looking at the same numbers and we don't get into a rut, I guess, for lack of a better term.
How long have we been with Major and Maestro?
They've done the last 2 years. They also did years 2004 through 2008.
So if we locked them in now for 3 years, that would be 5 years we used them?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. The other side of the argument is apparently they've been doing a wonderful job, so the reason to stay with them.
There is some thought to switching up your auditors from time to time. The auditors come in and they will, these are what is known as snapshot audits. They don't take a look at every entry in every book. They look at certain accounts, they look at certain things. And there is a thought that you want to switch it up every once in a while because a different auditor will come in and look at different accounts and look at different information. And not that there's any ever been any indication of that here, but the thought is that if your financial controls aren't good enough and there is some embezzlement or there is some stealing, that somebody will know what accounts to take it from because those are not the accounts being audited. But I don't think that 5 years is considered unusual for having an auditor doing your books. You may want to look at the end of this 3 years, if you went with Major and Mastro, about switching after the sixth, or you may not want to have them 9 years in a row or 8 years in a row. But I don't think having them 5 is unusual. So, but again, one of the things that Mr. Harvey indicated is true. We are required, you can't award them 1 year tonight and then just come back and re-up for the second year later on. You have to go through the whole process of
Hope the price is the same.
Getting bids, yeah. So.
I'm personally comfortable with all 3 years.
Yeah, I feel similarly, and looking at some of the other prices,
Right.
it could be that they're giving us an excellent cost here, and we ought to lock it in.
Okay. All right, then. Chair will entertain any motions in this time.
I'll make a motion to appoint Major and Maestro through 2014. Would that be correct? That'll be 3 years at the price of $22,000 a year.
A second?
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen, pull the board, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is consider purchase of an enclosure equipment for Township Gator. Mr. Gray.
Yes, the township recently received 2 quotes to enclose the township gator. This gator is used by the Public Works Department for a variety of tasks in the community park, during daytime hours. At nighttime and weekends, this gator is used by the Park and Rec security staff for patrolling the park. The quotes received were from Star Lawnmower for $4,761 and Marazzo for $4,751. Both quotes are for enclosing the gator, a heated system, windshield wipers, shipping, and installation. The board is asked to consider this purchase. In addition, Bill Reese, Park and Rec Director, and Chief Connor from the Park and Rec security staff are here for any questions you may have.
What's his code name again?
Gray Squirrel?
Gray Squirrel, that's right.
So, if you give us just maybe something we should have done first, Mr. Gray, explain what a gator is exactly.
Yes, absolutely. The gator is it's similar to a golf cart, but there's a bed in the back, and what they can do, the Public Works Department, they can put equipment on there. They usually pick it up at the Phase 1 garage, and they take it to various locations within the community park that maybe they can't get to in a vehicle. They load up, and they use whatever tools or anything else that may be needed at a remote site. So it's good for all-terrain, going out into the grass or into the mud, whatever it may be, whereas a vehicle may not be able to get into remote areas.
I believe they can also purchase, if we required it or wanted to, plow for it.
Yes.
They used to collect trash. When we had the SWAT demonstration a few weeks ago, I know the police brought it down there and used it, so it has a lot of uses.
Yes.
Okay, questions or comments for either Mr. Gray or Mr. Reese or Mr. Connor, who's here this evening? Mr. Galloway, anything?
Just that I took note of the note at the bottom of the memo that I have that mentions the two quotes are so close. But I like the idea of Marazzo's being closer.
That's how I feel too, Mr. Galloway.
In a local
Yeah, I agree
company,
with
you
you.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
They're both great companies, though. I mean, we got the gator from the other place, so.
Mr. Snipes?
Yeah, could you give us a visual of what the enclosure looks like? What will this involve, and what benefit will it give, and what's it look like?
You wanna
Maybe
give
give
the
us a
benefit
visual
for the
picture.
Park security, and I'll talk about the.
The benefits of it, we'll be able to use it in the wintertime, because the way it sits right now, you can't use it in the rain or, in the cold. So we get it enclosed, we'll be able to use it all the time.
It can also go a lot of places the cars can't go because it's four-wheel drive. It's much smaller. And in the summertime or when the park is crowded, it'll be a lot easier to maneuver through the park rather than a car, a Crown Victoria, driving down the path doing their routine patrol. It would most likely be less impact on the path as well, I would think, than a regular car driving on it or a truck.
This
Collecting
is just
trash.
really creating a cab is basically what it's doing.
Absolutely.
And is that something that's going
yes.
to be removable, or is it's on and it's done?
I believe it's when it's on there, it's going to stay. I mean, you can take it off, I guess, but I think because they do the installation of it, I'm thinking once it's on, it would have to be a major thing to take it off. I don't think it's not a portable thing. It's an actual hard cab that they put on.
If it's like a hard top on a Jeep, there's just a series of bolts, but it is
Right.
it's a journey.
Yeah,
Take it
yeah.
off and put it back on
It's
again.
not something I want to take off and put on all the time, that's for sure.
This has a heater for winter use.
Yes.
Summertime, does it have air conditioning? I mean, I maybe.
No, I think in the summertime, that's when we
Can it-
would actually probably would take it off for the summertime.
Okay, it can be removed. Does it have windows that can open?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just thinking it can get suffocating inside a machinery like
Yeah,
that if
right.
you don't have.
I do believe the doors will come off also,
Yeah.
and you can take them off easy.
Right,
in the
that would make a
summertime.
big difference.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dance?
Oh, could I just mention one more thing? Both companies offer a 1-year warranty. I just mentioned that.
Okay. Mr. Dance, any other comments?
No.
Okay. No, and I think Mr. Dent's mentioned, already just one of the complaints, we get very few complaints about the Township Park, and very few complaints about the park staff. But one of the complaints we do get occasionally, especially in the summertime when it's more well-traveled, are the people that, they're walking on the path, or they're biking or rollerblading or pushing their kids, and one of the patrol cars comes around, one of the park security guards comes around on a regular full-size car. And the people have to get off, and there maybe in some cases maybe limited areas for them to get off to because of shrubs and everything else. And so this obviously takes up a lot less space, and it would be less wear and tear on the path and on everything else. Obviously a very useful item. If you have a vehicle that's going out across some of the fields, it's not going to do any kind of damage to the fields like in some cases a regular vehicle would. So, and it would be, as Mr. Connor said, it would be available for use all year long, not just in the nicer weather. So, assuming there's no public comment, there's not many people out in the public except for Mr. Connor and Mr. Reese. Okay, and a few other guests. I'll entertain a motion for the purchase of the enclosure for the Gator.
So moved.
Well, we're looking at Marazzo's or Star
For
Lawn.
Marazzo's.
Okay.
For $4,751.
Yeah.
Just to make
I
a
have a
joint
different
joint
price.
motion here.
There you go.
Oh, you have a different?
Mine says $4,561.
I don't think so. Well,
4,751.
Yes, 4,751 and 4,761.
Okay. Yeah, this is.
But the
this is
51
one
is
number. I
Marazzo's.
agree with you. This is one number.
Right?
Right then up here, it says something different. Okay. Yeah, we have two
That's
different.
fine.
Yeah, there's a summary sheet from Mr. Reese.
Could I just add one thing, Mr. Harvey?
Yeah.
The reason was 4,005, that was before the assembly installation fee.
Okay.
So they offered 200, so that's what the difference is.
Gotcha.
I was looking at the invoice, not the memo.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was doing the same thing.
I apologize.
so it is 4,751?
Correct. 51.
Marazzo's is 51.
Marazzo's 51. Star Power.
Who's on third? That's fine. I'll second that motion.
All right, so I think we've got that clear now. Mrs. Pullen, pull the board, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
All right, minutes for November 7th, 2012. Comments or questions, corrections from board members? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
None. Excellent minutes once again, Mrs. Poland. Thank you.
I don't have any comments or questions. Mr. Dents?
None.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes of November 7th, 2012 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We do have some executive session items that we have to address, and so we are going to take a short recess while we go into executive session. I understand manager comment is nothing or
I have
not
nothing
much?
tonight, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
We'll go into some board comment. So, for the couple of you out there, will excuse us for a little bit, please. Okay, reconvene our meeting about 8:31. Mr. Gray, or Mr. Clark, or Ms. Gallagher, give us a summary of our executive session, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the board held an executive session to discuss litigation and a contractual matter with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation that, under their rules, needs to remain confidential at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, manager comment, I believe there's nothing tonight, Mr. Gray?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so board comment, Mr. Snipes?
No comment this evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Galloway?
No comment.
Mr. Dents?
I'm just going to mention that Waste Management, due to the storm, added another leaf collection for December 15th. As we were just discussing, hopefully everybody's leaves fall by then. I know my neighbor's tree is still full of leaves, so hopefully his tree is done so I can scrape them up. That's all I have tonight.
Okay. All right, just a few things. I want to announce that a few weeks ago, I guess probably a few months ago now, thinking about it, our police department put in for a grant to help equip our SWAT team, which where Falls Township police officers are on the Southern Bucks SWAT team and make up a good proportion of that group. And we did secure a grant of over $55,000. So thank you very much to Lieutenant Henry Ward, who does a lot of work on that and does an excellent job. Also want to remind residents, talking about the hurricane, that Mr. Gray or Mr. Dent just referenced. We did a few weeks ago direct our township staff to waive permit fees for anyone who suffered any kind of hurricane damage, whether it's roofs or siding or sidewalks, driveways that were damaged, gutters or anything that needs to be replaced that you might need a permit for. When you come into the township building to file for that work, there's just a separate form to indicate what kind of damage there was, and our staff will go out and take a look at it. There is going to be a limit on that, essentially in terms of time. If you're going to apply for that, you have to apply before the end of January. So January 31st is the last day you'll be able to get that free pass on the permit for hurricane repair. And that is something we need to do just for our staff to make it easier. In some cases we get people that don't do anything. Maybe a year from now they come back and say they have had hurricane damage, and that we can't have that. It has to be something more immediate. So just keep that in mind for people. I know Mr. Gray was saying that he was hearing from Mr. Bennett, our code enforcement officer, that there were people coming in and applying for permits for work, to be done on their house, and the process of conversation with our staff, we were finding out that it was damaged from hurricanes. They didn't realize that they, could get a free pass on the permits, so a waiver on that permit. So we've been trying to do our best to get the message out. Also want to, I guess with the nicer weather, just remind people, and again, going back to the leaves and other yard waste that's around, remind people that it is illegal to burn leaves. It is not just a Falls Township rule. It is, an issue of fire safety. It is okay if you have chimeneas or you have fire pits and you're burning, wood from, that's either you're buying someplace at Home Depot or any kind of firewood that you're burning. That's okay, but it has to be wood. It can't be leaves. It can't be any kind of trash. You can, cardboard or anything else that's newspaper or anything you decide to try and get rid of in some way other than the garbage or the recycling. That is illegal, and it's obviously a fire hazard to yourself, to your own home, to your neighbors' homes and property. So, we'll ask people to stop doing that, please. And finally, just want to remind people, tree lighting is this Saturday night at 3 Arches. I believe Historic Fallsington's is the next night.
Yeah, Sunday evening the 9th at 6 p.m.
Okay, at 6 p.m. in Fallsington. And Saturday evening also at sundown is the beginning of Hanukkah. So for our Jewish friends and neighbors here in Falls Township, I want to wish them a very happy Hanukkah. And invite them to come on out to the 3 Arches to celebrate the beginning of the holiday season. And with that, I'll thank the professional staff and our employees here for another good meeting, and my friends here on the board for a very good meeting as well. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.